The tension in that lecture hall was electric, not from the debate topic, though climate policy certainly had everyone fired up, but from the way Dylan's eyes locked onto mine every time I challenged his argument. His jaw tightened, fingers gripping the podium as I dismantled his statistics with surgical precision. 29 years old, and I'd never felt this kind of heat during an academic discussion. "Professor Hayes," his voice cut through the murmur of students, smooth but edged with frustration, "your data conveniently ignores the economic realities." "Mr. Chen," I interrupted, leaning forward slightly, "economic realities don't override environmental necessities. Your position lacks the nuance this issue demands." The way his breath caught was barely perceptible, but I noticed. Just like I noticed how his gaze lingered on my lips as I spoke, how his fingers drummed against his thigh when I moved closer to the whiteboard. The other debate club members faded into background noise. This had become something else entirely. Quick favor before we dive deeper. If you're enjoying this tension, hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything, and trust me, you won't want to miss where this leads. The debate officially ended at 9, but our argument was far from over. Students filtered out, their conversations fading into the corridor, leaving us alone in the sudden quiet. Dylan gathered his papers with deliberate movements, his shoulders rigid with barely contained energy. "Coffee?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. He looked up, those dark eyes searching mine. "To continue destroying my arguments? To give you a chance to defend them properly." The campus cafe was nearly empty, just a few graduate students, hunched over laptops in distant corners. We claimed a small table by the window, the overhead lights casting warm shadows across his face. Steam rose from our cups, creating an intimate barrier between us and the outside world. "You're passionate about this," I said, stirring my latte slowly. "Climate policy, I mean." "Passionate." He tested the word, his lips curving slightly. "Is that what you call it when someone cares enough to actually research their position?" "I call it attractive." The words hung between us, shifting the entire dynamic. His cup paused halfway to his lips, and for a moment, neither of us breathed. The careful academic distance we'd maintained crumbled in an instant. "Professor Hayes, Mia, we're not in class anymore." "Mia." The way he said my name sent warmth pooling low in my stomach. This probably isn't appropriate. Probably not. I leaned forward, closing the space between us. "Does that change how you're looking at me right now?" His throat worked as he swallowed. "No." The cafe around us felt charged. Every ordinary sound, the hiss of the espresso machine, the soft jazz playing overhead, the distant laughter from other tables, faded into white noise. All that mattered was the way Dylan's fingers drummed against the ceramic of his cup, the way his breathing had changed, become deeper, more deliberate. "Tell me what you're thinking," I whispered. "That I've been watching you for months, in faculty meetings, at conferences, the way you command a room, how you never back down from an argument." His voice dropped lower. "That I've imagined what it would be like to have all that focus directed at me." Heat flashed through me, settling between my thighs with an intensity that made me shift in my seat. "Dylan, that I think about you when I shouldn't. During lectures, when you're explaining complex theories with that little crease between your eyebrows. When you laugh at department parties and your whole face lights up." He set his cup down with a soft clink. "That I want to know what you sound like when you're not being professional." The confession hit me like a physical thing, stealing my breath. My core tightened, responding to the raw honesty in his voice, the way his gaze traveled over my face, like he was memorizing every detail. "My apartment is 5 minutes from here," I heard myself say. We didn't speak during the short walk, but the air between us crackled with anticipation. Every accidental brush of our hands sent sparks up my arm. When I fumbled with my keys at the door, Dylan stepped closer, his warmth at my back making my fingers shake. The moment we crossed the threshold, everything changed. He spun me around, pressing me against the closed door, his hands braced on either side of my head. For a heartbeat, we just stared at each other, both trembling on the edge of something we couldn't take back. "Are you sure?" He breathed against my lips. Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us. The kiss was immediate fire, months of suppressed attraction pouring out in a rush of heat and need. His mouth moved against mine with desperate hunger, his body pressing me firmly against the door. I could feel his heart racing, matching the frantic rhythm of my own. My hands found the buttons of his shirt, working them open with trembling fingers. He groaned into my mouth as my palms spread across his chest, feeling the solid warmth of him, the way his muscles tensed under my touch. "Mia." He whispered my name like a prayer, his lips trailing down my throat. "You have no idea how long I've wanted this." His hands found the hem of my blouse, sliding it up and over my head in one fluid motion. The cool air hit my skin, but his touch immediately followed, warming every inch he explored. His fingers traced the edge of my bra with reverent care, as if I were something precious he'd been allowed to touch. "You're beautiful," he murmured against my collarbone, his breath hot against my skin. "So incredibly beautiful." I arched into him, my body responding to every touch, every whispered word. When his hands found the clasp of my bra, I helped him, wanting nothing between us. The fabric fell away, and his sharp intake of breath made me feel powerful, desired in a way I'd never experienced. "Bedroom," I managed to say, though forming words felt nearly impossible. He lifted me effortlessly, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me down the hallway. We barely made it to the bed before we were pulling at each other's remaining clothes, desperate to feel skin against skin. When he lowered me onto the mattress, his weight settling over me, I felt complete in a way that took my breath away. His hands mapped every curve, every sensitive spot, learning my body with the same careful attention he brought to his research. "Tell me what you want," he whispered against my ear, his voice rough with need. "You," I breathed. "All of you." He took his time, building the tension between us with skilled touches and whispered endearments. When he finally moved with me, our bodies finding their rhythm, it was like coming home. Every movement sent waves of pleasure through me, each, one building higher than the last. We moved together in perfect synchronization, as if we'd been made for this moment. His name fell from my lips over and over, a mantra of pleasure and need. When the tension finally broke, crashing over me in waves that left me shaking, he followed, my name a broken sound against my throat. Afterward, we lay tangled together, hearts slowly returning to normal rhythm. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my skin, and I felt a contentment I'd never known before. "What happens now?" I asked softly. "Now," he said, pressing a kiss to my temple. "We figure it out as we go." The morning brought uncertainty. Sunlight streamed through my bedroom windows, illuminating the reality of what we'd done. Dylan's arm was still around me, his breathing deep and even in sleep. He looked younger like this, peaceful, and my heart clenched with something deeper than desire. What were we doing? I was his professor, older, established in my career. He was a graduate student, brilliant and passionate, but at a different stage of life. The complications seemed insurmountable in the harsh light of day. He stirred, his eyes opening to find mine already watching him. "Good morning," he said softly, his voice husky with sleep. "Morning." He must have heard the uncertainty in my voice because his expression grew serious. "You're having second thoughts." "I'm having all the thoughts." I sat up, pulling the sheet around me. "This is complicated, Dylan. More complicated than either of us realized last night. Because you're my professor? Because of a dozen different reasons. The department, the university policies, the fact that we barely know each other outside of academic settings." He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing the edge of the sheet. "What if we took time to figure out those other settings? Away from the university, away from all the complications? And then what? Hope it doesn't get messy? Or hope it gets messy in all the best ways?" He sat up, his hand finding mine. "Mia, I meant what I said last night. I've been watching you, thinking about you, for months. This isn't just attraction or curiosity. There's something here worth exploring." His honesty was disarming, cutting through my morning after anxiety. Looking at him now, rumpled and earnest in my bed, I felt that same pull that had drawn me to him in the first place. "One date," I said finally. "Away from campus, somewhere we can just be two people talking." His smile was radiant. Two people who happened to have incredible chemistry. Two people who happened to be very good at arguing. Even better. 3 days later, we met at a small restaurant across town, somewhere neither of us was likely to run into colleagues or students. The conversation flowed as easily as it had in the cafe, but without the academic pressure. We talked about books and travel, family, and dreams, finding common ground in unexpected places. "You were right about the economic data," I admitted over dessert. "I should have acknowledged the validity of your concerns." "Are you actually conceding a point to me?" His eyes danced with amusement. "Don't get used to it. Too late. I'm already planning how to leverage this in our next debate." The easy banter felt natural, comfortable, but underneath it ran a current of awareness that had nothing to do with academics. Every time our hands brushed reaching for water glasses, every shared laugh, every moment of eye contact sent heat spiraling through me. When he walked me to my car, the night air cool around us, the tension that had been building all evening, reached a breaking point. "Mia," he said softly, stepping closer. "This is probably a terrible idea," I whispered, even as my body swayed toward his. "Probably." His hands framed my face, thumbs brushing across my cheekbones. but I can't seem to care about probable anymore. The kiss was different this time, less desperate, more certain. It spoke of possibility rather than just desire, of something that might grow beyond a single night of passion. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. "I want to see you again," he said. "Not as professor and student, not in secret meetings across town. I want to see where this goes when we stop overthinking it." Standing there in the parking lot, his hands warm on my face and his heart beating against mine, I realized I wanted the same thing. The complications hadn't disappeared, but they seemed manageable now, worth navigating for whatever this was. Becoming. "Okay," I said simply. Okay, let's see where this goes. But we take it slow, we're careful about university policies, and if it gets too complicated, we'll figure it out." He kissed me again, soft and sweet. Together. 6 months later, we were still figuring it out. The university had policies about relationships between faculty and students, but Dylan was in his final semester, working with a different advisor, for his thesis. We'd been careful, discreet, professional in academic settings, but here, in my apartment on a lazy Sunday morning, professionalism was the last thing on our minds. "You're going to be late for your defense," I murmured against his throat, my fingers tracing the line of his collarbone. "Worth it," he breathed, his hands tangling in my hair as I pressed closer. We'd learned each other's bodies over the past months, discovered every sensitive spot, every touch that made the other gasp. The initial desperate hunger had evolved into something deeper, more confident. We could take our time now, build the tension slowly, savor every moment. His lips found mine in a kiss that tasted like morning coffee and promise. When he rolled us over, settling his weight above me, I felt that same flutter of anticipation that had never quite faded. "After today," he said, his voice rough with desire, "I won't be your student anymore." "And what will you be?" "Yours," he said simply. "If you'll have me." The words sent warmth flooding through me, not just physical, but emotional. Somewhere between that first heated debate and this quiet morning declaration, I'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with him. "Always," I whispered, pulling him down for another kiss. We moved together with practiced ease, bodies fitting perfectly, rhythm established through months of learning each other. When pleasure crashed over us both, it felt like a celebration of everything we'd built together. Later, as we lay wrapped around each other, I thought about how wrong I'd been that first morning. The complications hadn't disappeared, but they'd become part of our story rather than obstacles to it. Every challenge we'd navigated had only made us stronger, more certain of what we meant to each other. "Ready to go defend your thesis?" I asked, pressing a kiss to his shoulder. "Ready to start the next chapter," he said, squeezing me closer. The next chapter indeed. Dylan would graduate in 2 weeks, start his new job at an environmental consulting firm, and we'd finally be free to stop hiding what we'd become. The future stretched ahead of us, bright with possibility. Sometimes the best debates are the ones that never really end, just evolve into something deeper. What started as intellectual sparring had become something neither of us had expected, a partnership that challenged us both, in the classroom and beyond. So tell me, have you ever found yourself in a situation where professional boundaries blurred into something more? Where a simple disagreement sparked something you never saw coming? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one and love hearing your stories. And before you go, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter. Trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.